Hi, welcome to my next video tutorial. Today I'm going to present to you how to work on big spaces like on the leg of my drednought. And I'm going to present you how to work on this part. And I wanted to show you a bit of my desk for the bigger authenticity. Okay, because as you know, later you will see only gray background. And that's the leg that we are going to work on today. I'm going to use for the painting Winsor Newton Series 7, but this time size 2, which is great because believe me, working with size 1 on bigger areas is completely craziness and it's hard to do. Okay, so what's the most important in non-metallics, as you should know by now, is of course placing the light and shadow in the right places. And we've got like classic elements, like to make feeling that this what you painted is metallic, you need to make strong contrast between sudden highlights going into sudden shadows, and everything is happening all the sudden. And the biggest amount of color you can put is in the midtones between light and shadow. And of course, if you paint in shadows where there's less light there, you can have also more light in here. But in places like this, if you want to have strong light, the colors will be very pale. And then we have neighboring places that will have to be darker, because the eyelid will get smaller when you see something really bright. So if the eyelid, I hope I remember correctly, the part of the eye, if the eyelid gets small to see very bright part, then it can't see really colors in the darker one. So here we have make simply stronger contrast. Okay, so that's for the Fury. I'm going to use white paint from Polycolor because it works really nice for me. And of course, I will also remove the grease from the leg using this thing. Okay, so let's take brush cleaner. I use Winsor Newton detergent. Okay, just this one, Detergente Panelli. I assume that's just Italian name for what it's doing, but look for something like this because it's delicate for the surfaces. I bought another one from different company and it's really aggressive. And this one, what I'm doing now, as you can see, I'm not trying to remove the paint, so I'm rolling this stick over it in order to simply make the layer of paint softer. And when it's softer, the paint will simply stick to it much better. Okay, as you can see, it's already dried out, so no problem. Okay, so it's time to work with white paint. I also can show you in the meantime that I'm trying different colors on this metallic. So I tried here a bit with red and orange tones, but I'm not really happy with the effect. I will have to do something else about it. So yeah, it was a bit of a failure, but still I've got like 2 good recipes for pale and warm NMM. So maybe I will discover something reddish. I think that something reddish more into orange would work also nice. Okay, let's add water. As you can see, This is paint straight from the tube, but because it's acrylic paint, it's basically like all of our regular paints. I'm going to use consistency that is like this. Okay. Could you please focus? Okay. So that's the consistency I'm going for. I'm not going to present this on any pictograms because so far I didn't discover any way of presenting this in graphic way that would make any sense, and just presenting, I don't know, water drops or something like this doesn't seem really clear for me. So just you need to try to achieve something like this, like what you just saw. Okay, so like I said, because there is reflection neighboring to here, so here it has to be darker. Okay, so the reflection will go in a bit different way than there. It will be just here, not on such a big surface like there. And there, if you don't know where to apply reflection, just try to make a picture with some light that you find nice, with some light where you think that the miniature looks nice, and try to reproduce these reflections. I can see that you can see the same reflections that I do because the camera is in a bit different position than my head, but unfortunately I cannot do anything about this, so you have to believe me that I'm following reflections that I can see. In this way it will simply be more natural. And of course, because this is glossy black, not exactly metal, this will in the end has to work in a bit different way. But of course we also need to remember about the rule of what makes things look good. And miniatures look good if they've got a lot of contrasting elements. And here I simply need reflection similar to this that is here. But it needs to be also smaller, and because I need to make it like this, I will also make another reflections in the shaded areas that are untouched on the other side. But like I said, this side can be even more interesting because of using darker colors, so I will have everything more saturated than here. Okay, so once again, you probably don't see this, but now I've got reflection that goes like this, similar to the other side, but a bit different. Of course, big problem with painting miniatures and metallics on them is that they are 3D objects, so the light will always change, but as the miniatures and painters presented us, if we simply make it nice and working with any sense, this will look good. So we don't have to worry too much about that this is not two-dimensional object. It still looks good, even though the reflection don't move with moving of the miniature and the source of light. Okay, so these are three, the most important reflections. Of course, here we will need another reflection, but I don't know if I will have time to paint it, so I prefer not to start with it. And I need different reflections in here, but also similar, because the shape of the leg is still the same. So the rules of how light will work on it will be the same, but also different. Because like I said, shape is the same, but the light is different here. So that's why I many times told you and presented that I changed the ideas about stuff, because sometimes you need to simply paint something to see if this will work. And like I said, black areas, because it's metal, so it will always reflect the light, and will also only have stripes of black that are actually not. Sometimes there are shadows on the metal, but many times there are simply reflections of objects that are dark or in the shadows. That's why there can't be much of them. And they're supposed to be more often in form of stripes and lines than big areas. Okay, so at this point I created something like this, and we will see what will happen next. Now I will make a few more layers with white paint, and I will see you in a moment when they will be gone. Okay, so as you can see, I spent some time on painting this white layer of paint. It took me a while, definitely more than usually, but it's really important to have nice white surface for this, and it's hard to say how many layers, because I wasn't just painting trying to create one big layer all the time. I was trying to paint like other colors, creating stripe by stripe, because then we've got thanks to that I'm creating a stronger layer of paint. And well, yeah, this is how it looks like now. Okay, so let's go for another color. I think that it would be nice to start with ochre brown. Yep, let's go with it. Okay, so sorry for these problems with the camera. Oh no sorry, because I probably cut it off. Yeah, there's always some problem with position of the camera. Okay, so now let's simply apply a few layers of ochre brown. When you're painting anything that is going to be wet for a while longer, always try to start with details that are in depth, like places where you won't touch them, like this is good, and leave for the end places that are on the convex areas that are easy to touch. Because, well, you just don't want to destroy the layer of paint you just covered. Yes, you don't have to be very precise in this step, because I will paint shadows later. And as you can see, I created a few more bright places. So there is no magic trick for this part. It's just boring repeating the same thing over and over again. And now I should leave it like this and let it dry, but I won't, just because. Okay, these few places dried out, so I can cover them with paint. But as you can see, most of the leg is still wet, so they will have to wait. Okay, but now you can see the difference. 1 layer, 2 layers, and 3 layers. And as you can see, I will probably need 4 of them to make it really nice. And I will make this off the camera to send you time of presenting the same thing over and over again. So see you in a moment. Okay, so I had to apply a few layers, but it is done. As you can see, now I have a nice surface of ochre brown. So now I can take chocolate brown, okay, too much, and mix it a little with black. Mix a little of it with black. As you can see, I've got created too much. And this is what I'm going to use instead of black. I am simply going to use this instead of black. Well, as you can see, there is not really much to describe in this process. As you can see, I painted with my ochre brown over everything. So now I need to recreate the deepest shadows. And created rounded shapes. Like in here, by accident, I made it straight, but it should be curved instead. Because the surface itself is not flat, so there cannot be straight lines in here. It's funny when you're looking at it because, well, now it's so harsh and it looks really messy. But when I will start working finally on creating layers and then on blending, all of a sudden this whole big mess and chaos will start looking with sense and smoothness. And this is really interesting for me always when I'm on this stage. This looks really trashy. Trashy? This looks bad, simply bad. So, but it can become really nice in the end. Remember about rounded shapes. And as you can see, there is not much room for the darkest shadow. Like I said, these kind of shadows are mostly reflections of shadows on other objects. And now I'm curving this shape under the pattern because the pattern casts shadow and the shadow will get curved by the uneven surface of metallic of this by the fact that it's curved. Okay, nice. Oh no, one more. Okay, nice. So now I've got the shapes back. It's time for something else. Flat Earth. I don't know why I keep showing this to you. You can see it in the right bottom corner. Okay, so now it's time to create the first layer. Yeah, sorry that I'm not talking much, but if you've been counting on it, unfortunately I don't have anything to say on this subject right now. It's just like you can see. It's just exactly what you can see. Painting new layers of paint. So there is not much to explain. Okay, now I will of course work on making this layers look nicer. And once again I will make this off the camera because like you could see now it's not super interesting. So see you in a moment. Okay, so as you can see I made these layers better looking and I also made black lining because well everyone knows how to make black lining. It's just painting shapes of the objects that we are painting. More important things are the mixtures that I'm going to use. I don't know how it will look on the video, but it already looks pretty orange to me because of these brown layers of paint. And now flat earth and ochre brown are going to be our most basic colors, but I also would love to make them in a few places a bit more orange. So to do that I will use my red paint and I will use just a tiny amount of it. Okay, so let's add a small amount of red. Okay, because I don't want to make this red, I just want to make this more orange. Okay, so I guess that's my new layer of paint. Okay, so one of the darkest areas in here is going to be this space, because it's right in the middle. The light is going to come here and reflect here, and this area is going to be in the biggest shadow. Of course, not in the absolute shadow, but still very dark area. Here, this layer won't be big because the reflection here is supposed to be pretty strong. So it's going to be thinner layer. Like I said, the brighter area, the thinner the layer will be. When I say the, I mean this one in particular. Because we are going for big sudden reflection. But I'm going to use this color everywhere. Sorry. It's easy to lose it from my eye when I focus on painting. From my side. And here are the areas where I definitely want more of this orange. Oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work either. And this is in the shadow, so you can see anything. So let's assume that I painted this. You can see it, as you can see. There is no position when I can show you how to make it. And it doesn't really matter, it's just another layer of this orange paint. What is really important is that, first of all, I need to make this a bit bigger. Okay, of course it's still pure ochre brown. Okay, here I made it not the best. Okay, it's supposed to be rather like this. Something like this. This shape needs to go from here to here. So it needs to work as the continuation of one of each other. Okay, a bit better, but not great, yet not terrible. Okay, so now I'm going to use ochre brown, yellow ochre, of course. And I will, let's see, I'm not sure if I need to add more white. Yes, I think this is nice. So as you can see, I added a bit of white to make it brighter. Okay, and this is going to be used for the brightest reflections. So of course, like I said before, this is one of the brightest reflections. Yes, I will have to work on other layers in a moment. Yeah, I think I need to push this many of these layers further because the reflection needs to be bigger. Okay, this is my most important reflection. Here I have space to make more layers of colors. Okay, I need a little bit more of this. Okay, so as you can see, the concept changed a little. Okay, so a few shapes just became changed by me as well. Okay. So I guess I suppose I should have start with this color, but well, like I said, things like this keep happening to me. Okay, now pure yellow ochre for spaces like this one over here. Yeah, so I get, so definitely the bright layers supposed to be the first ones to make, because they are giving the tone to the rest of the shapes. Yep. I don't know. I will mix ochre brown with yellow ochre. Okay, because I want this to be a tiny bit darker than it is right now. Okay. Okay, let's make also here a small area a bit brighter. Okay, and now of course on the edges of these reflections. Now I don't have to make really pretty layers. Because this difference between one color and the other is really small. Okay. Now it became a bit more 3D. Okay, now let's make here layer with ochre brown. Well, like I said, I should have make this in different order. Okay, I keep this being ochre brown, but I make this a bit bigger. Yes, definitely. The brightest reflections made with yellow, ochre, and white supposed to be the first ones to paint. That was pretty stupid of me. But what can I say? Things like this keep happening to me every time I paint anything. Okay, and this is the one when I'm supposed to work with this orange. I will even add a bit of yellow ochre to make the smaller difference between these colors. As you can see now, I already don't have to make these pretty looking layers. I can already go and create some scratches with this orange, like in here. Okay, so more orange here. Okay, so I think that this is the stage. Okay, it looks completely different, yet similar. And this is the stage where I can start working on blending layers together. Of course, there are still a few places where I can go, like here I can go and add a bit of pure yellow ochre. But still, the most important thing is to keep sudden reflection sudden and strong. Don't go don't go from dark to bright in like bit after bit. It has to be sudden reflection. So yeah, I'm gonna take a break from one now, and the next stage is going to be blending these reflections. Let's see how this will look. Okay, this is how it looks like now, and now it's time for blending the layers. Okay. Alright, so it's time to finally start blending. As you can see, this is more or less what I hope for my drednought. One side strongly illuminated by source of light with paler greenish tones, and the other in the shadows with warm yellow tones. I hope this will work, but we will see once it's done. Okay, now how to sit to make it comfortable for all of us. Okay, I hope you can see everything here. Let's see if I can enlarge this. No, I cannot. You see, I see this on the screen of a small phone, so it always seems worse than in reality. Okay, so let's go to the business. I start, of course, with darker colors, and I paint with them by scratching with the tip of my brush the surface between the dark layer and the brighter layer. Thanks to this technique, I am leaving really small amount of paint that is really thin, that thanks to that dries really quickly, and because of that I can make plenty of them. And if I make plenty of them, they simply dry quickly, but there will always be a little of base color between the scratches, and that's how I make this blend smooth. Like I said many times, you can, if you want to try this out first on bigger scale, you can simply try shading some drawing with a pencil or pen. That's how I learned how to do it, by doodling during my lectures on my studies. It was pretty cool. Okay, because I am in a position that is really bad for my spine, then maybe, just maybe, I can... Okay, yes, we can have better image. Sorry for this shaking. We need to survive this for a moment, and in a moment it will be fine. In the meantime, I'm taking pure flat earth, and I do the same thing. I think that while now I believe that you might not see the movements of my paintbrush or what is exactly happening, wait for the brighter colors, they will be easier to see. Also keep in mind the photo that I uploaded some time ago with big zoom of the leg, where you could see the structure of the surface of the miniature. That's exactly how I'm painting this and how this is happening. Of course, from time to time, situations are happening, like this one here. When I by accident made it too bright, because you know it's after all manual painting, so sometimes my brush, its tip sometimes gets crooked and stops working great, and sometimes it's drying out too fast. And also, it sometimes simply works good if you first go with bright color on dark, then with dark on the bright, because like I said, there's always a bit of earlier color in the spaces between these micro scratches, and that's basically how I'm making the best transitions, going back and forth. Also remember that you will get completely different effect going in this order and going in another order. What I mean is that if you paint with bright colors on dark colors, then you will have paler tonations, and if you paint first grid layers with bright colors and then blender edges with dark colors, then you will have much more saturated layers. Okay, now I got dust particle on my paintbrush. It also ruins painting. And once again, chocolate brown. Yes, chocolate brown. I'm using sometimes chocolate brown, sometimes this other paint, burnt umber, and I honestly don't see any difference between these two paints, but I prefer to use chocolate brown just because I know how to pronounce it. And I have no idea how to pronounce burnt umber. I'm probably doing this wrong, sorry. So, if you're wondering why I'm using sometimes this one and sometimes this one, then, well, I don't see any difference between them. And sometimes I got questions about, or people really appreciating my patience during painting. So if you're having problem with sitting down for more than, if you're sitting down and you can do it longer as long as you would like because you got distracted by something or else, I highly suggest you trying some ebooks, audiobooks. I mean, I joined these two pleasures for a long time, and this is great because, well, it's simply nice to paint and listen to some cool stories at the same time. It really works great for me. Of course, as you can see, sometimes I need to go back for even darker color because I need to keep more or less this shape in like good shape. And as you can see, things are simply happening. It's hard to exactly see how and when they are happening, but they are. Okay, now let's make a bit orangey tone. And if you will use dry paint, then your stripes will be more visible, and if you will use paint that will be more wet, then the stripes will be smoother and less visible, but of course then they will simply dry a bit slower. So I would recommend you to simply try it out, see when you feel great with which mixture. It's just a matter of with which consistency you will find more comfortable for yourself. Of course, the more mid-tones you put, the more interesting the transition can be, but sometimes you need to remember that human eye can't see as much as a painter can think sometimes. So from time to time it's better to go on shortcut. Like in here, I probably should, but I don't know, I will add tiny amount of flat earth to it. Okay. And still, it's great to go back and forth with these colors. And like I said, remember that the more gentle my touches are, the smaller amount of paint I leave on the surface. And then I can use more a color that is more different. Is there even more different? Let's say that it's the word. Sorry, I was never good at learning languages. Like I said, I was doodling during my lectures. No, actually, when I was studying, I was really trying to learn English as good as I could, but it's simply not easy for me. So sorry. Everyone is good at something. Math and languages are definitely not great for me. So sometimes, as you can see, I can paint over something and don't see any change. Sometimes that's because the change of the color is so subtle, and sometimes it's because the paint dried out on the tip of my brush and I didn't see that. So yeah, one of these two. And you see here, I wanted to create more colors between this brighter reflection and darker, and as you can see, the change is barely visible. That's why it's not always a great idea to create so many tones. And that was the situation when it wasn't such a good idea, because I could get old before anything would really happen. Okay, so I really don't have any anecdotes more to say at this moment. So I guess I will paint for a moment in quiet. So like you can see, it's just going the same thing over and over again. Listening to books, listening to music, chilling, and seeing how things are simply appearing under your brush. It's kind of magical because you can go from, like I said, really weird looking spots of paint and then start working on blending them, and all of a sudden, boom, they create one nice blended structure that works nicely together. Okay, and this is the color that leaves really strong visible scratches. Sorry, I hope that I had to move the view because I was not sure if you have sharp, sharp picture here. Like I said, my smartphone is small, so I can't really rely on this what I can see, and I think it's important to let you see in a sharp way how it's happening. Okay, I think first I will blend the right side of this reflection because like you can see it's going to be interesting going from brighter reflection here to darker there, but I think it will look really nice. Sometimes paint doesn't work the way I want. I have no idea why. But when I clean the surface with the brush cleaner, it happens less often. I guess I should have made this before this video once again. Okay, finally it's time for this cool reflection. I think it's cool. I like that it's going from darker reflection to brighter. Okay. Nice. Okay, so in the meantime, I blended a few less impressive parts. Now let's go for another. Okay, so elements like this are really easy to blend because you go with straight line from the beginning to the end of the object. And this creates structure. Because it's metal, it's good. If it has scratches, it looks natural. I can barely see this part. Like I said, the more wet the paint is, the smoother the layers and scratches will be. Okay, blended. Let's go for another part. Okay, I think there's not enough water in my paint. I don't know why, but mixtures always dry quicker than, than pure paints. Wow, way too much. Way too much. As you can see, now I'm going to work a little with this orange mixture because I would like this area to be a bit darker than the rest of them. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but because I first blended layers, then now, like I told you before, by using darker color, I can have more saturated color. Okay, I created scratch that I didn't intend to. Okay, so in the end, the middle of it has to be ochre brown. Okay, now a tiny bit of ochre brown in the middle of this area. As you can see, the fact that I used orange colors here made this whole reflection orange, while it's only in the shadows. Okay. So right now I will make black linings around this, and I will show you this after they are done, in order to let you see how it looks. I hope that this will really work, because it's all about cheating the eye, and I'm not sure how it will and if it will, but we'll see that in a moment. Okay, so I did what I said that I will. I also blended layers on this big reflection just to make it look a bit more interesting. And I can already tell you that I think that I will make this reflection much brighter. I think that I should use white that is maybe 50-50 mixture of yellow ochre and white, something like this, because now I look on this and I think this is way too dark to make the effect. Well, okay, so you can see how this looks like. Okay. So in conclusion, that was the video tutorial about painting this side of the leg of my dreadnought. As you can see, my concept is to create pale greenish super bright colors in places where the leg is lightened up by the source of light, and darker yellowish brown colors in the shaded areas. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next tutorial. Bye!